Hi. Alright, I'm back to continue the month of Lethal Weapon. And easy to tell, I kind of upgraded some things and downgraded a few things. Haircut, long sleeve shirt, new background. Instead of having a phone sitting on a table, I've got an actual camera now, so that's always great. Microphone that the audio actually sounds pretty crisp, so I'm okay with that. And yeah, I think that kind of works, weirdly enough, for Lethal Weapon 2, because coming into it right off the bat is it feels very much the same, but it's also a little bit different. And a lot of that is that you get the lived in feeling that, oh, these characters have been friends for so long now, they're comfortable with each other the way you are with your best friend. And then it's also sort of in the development of Riggs' character, who isn't as dark as he was in the first one. He's actually come out of it. So we're saying that the end of the first one actually meant something, and he's carrying out, which it shouldn't be a big thing, but it seems to be something sequels have so much issue with. It's kind of the we're going to move the character along. He's not going to kind of get reset back to where he was. So, yeah, Lethal Weapon 2. 2 years later, returning cast, director, producers, whole nine. And again, dark script from the great Shane Black, who ruined the Predator franchise, but we'll get to that at some point, I'm sure. But again, he turned in a script, they toned it down. Lethal Weapon 2. And this time it kind of feels, I want to say, almost more typical for an 80s action film, because it's good guys versus bad guys. There's not a whole lot of deducing going on. It's just very standard issue. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys. We know we're the good guys and they're the bad guys. They know they're the bad guys and we're the good guys, and we're gonna clash. It's okay. You know, I'm kind of a big fan of the mystery unravels as you go, but even in the first one, that was kind of almost lackluster. They just kind of ended up falling onto most of it on hunches and everything, which is nice. You know, detective work, you have to play a hunch, and sometimes it goes nowhere, sometimes it works out. So, and in this one, it's Riggs, again played by Mel Gibson, Murtaugh, again played by Danny Glover, and they're part of a squad, and whole nine. That's literally where we pick up, is towards the end of a car chase. And they're going after him, and right off the bat, the banter between Gibson and Glover, absolutely perfect. You you could go right from one right into this and be like, yes, because they're playing off of each other perfectly once again, and it is the golden goose of this franchise. Is our two leads somehow spectacularly seeming like they've known each other for decades, and the movie progresses. Car chase ends, guys get away, but they find a bunch of gold coins in the trunk that are Cougarans, which I believe still might be the currency for South Africa. I have no idea. I didn't Google it. And sometimes currency changes. So, but that's kind of our big lead in, which isn't even a lead in because it kind of ends right there until the story gets going. Riggs and Murtaugh, backfoot, you're in trouble, grr. Again, it feels very generic, but it also kind of makes a lot of sense because the chase was a bit of a shit show. Let's call it what it was. And they end up having to pretty much babysit a federal witness played by Joe Pesci named Leo Getz. And he was a money launderer, knew some stuff, and now he's turning state's evidence for pretty much a pardon. And Joe Pesci, I mean, when I think Joe Pesci, I naturally go to Home Alone, more comedic, like you would see, like his character Leo here. But there's so many other people that'll think Joe Pesci, and they'll go all the way back to any Scorsese movie he pops up in, because he's He's got that just really awesome ability to go right from terrifying to making you laugh and right back around. Now, he doesn't play the scary too much in this franchise. It's all comedy, and he nails it, especially in this one. I feel like he is the strongest in this one over probably the next two, just because they kind of knew what he was doing. Which, when you're introducing a character, if you can't get him to fit, that's not good. But somehow he works as a little more than a plot device, because that's what he is. Because hitmen come to kill him. Oh no, they managed to get away. And Leo's like, I know who it was. It's 9. Something to do with a 9. So they track the house down, get into a fight. I now have a phobia about surfboards going through my windshield. That's a thing now. I'm really glad I have. So they find the house, and Riggs Murtaugh call their friends at the department and pretty much try to raid this house, only to find out it is actually the South African consulate in Los Angeles. Which, thanks to this movie, I at least learned of diplomatic immunity. Now, what that basically means is a foreign diplomat can't be charged with any crime on your soil, but there's a whole lot of red tape on that, which they can get around, but they also can't. It's one of those weird things. And especially a courier's pouch, you can't touch them, look at it, anything like that. Which is where we get introduced to, I'm going to call them the big bad and the heavy. Now, in the first one, we had the general and Mr. Joshua. This time we've got Arjun, the big top diplomat, and then his right-hand man, creepy guy, who just kind of gives you the willies. So I'm going to give the actor a lot of props on that one. Is you can kind of get the feeling like, oh, okay, this guy's going to backspin kick somebody in the neck before the credits roll. Like, I'm looking forward to this. And that instantly puts them on a collision course with Murtaugh and Riggs, which kind of works because it pays off the opening, because Cougar and South Africa, whereas a lot of other movies, your first 10-15 minutes won't matter, especially with horror movies or action movies. It's all more of a setup, like, hey, here's our heroes, here's what they do, here's our slasher villain, here's what he's going to do, and then it just never comes back around. Yeah, this pays off. I like it, but it doesn't really elevate the movie too much for me. So now they're unable to investigate any further, but decide, we're still going to screw with them. Let's do it. So Murtaugh goes into the consulate and causes certain things with the glorious help of Leo, while Riggs sneaks up and pretty much threatens the guy, hey, get out of my city. We don't want dirtbags like you around, because clearly you're into some pretty bad shit, but ass loads of drug money. Which actually brings me to the next part. Now that somebody's got close to their operation, they decide, alright, we gotta do something. So they, one, break into Murtaugh's house, threaten him, hey, back off, do this. Then they find the house, then they find his toilet. There's a thing called honoring war, and I think a bomb toilet's a little far. Car bombs, alright. Kind of played out, but there's a bit of dignity in that. And you don't target a man when he's at his most vulnerable with people. So, infamous bomb toilet scene, which it's probably my second favorite scene in this movie, which is actually where I actually have to leave right into my number one favorite scene in this movie, which actually becomes a big thing later. Bomb, oh no, Murtaugh never showed up. For work, Riggs checks it out, bomb, toilet, oh no. Bomb squad comes in, we can't do nothing, pressure plate, if he moves it's going to pop, but he's been sitting there for a good half a day now. So his legs are completely asleep. They're done, they've checked out for the day. And Murtaugh's like, well, here we go. Like, all right, I guess I'll do my best. But Riggs being Riggs, like, I'm not gonna leave my best friend to die on the crapper. It's like, no, I'm gonna help him. We're gonna both get out of this. This is what we're gonna do. And I really enjoy that. I got a good amount of friends, good friends. I'm not entirely sure I'm willing to die with them in a bathroom while they're not wearing pants. I'm Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm a bad person for that, but I couldn't tell you. Thankfully, everybody survives except for Murtaugh's wife's station wagon that gets a toilet through the windshield. But oops, I don't know if insurance covers that. You know, if anybody actually knows that, put that in the comments. I'd be very interested to know about that one. So, put pressure on the bad guys. Bad guys are fed up. Let's take care of this. So they go after the entire team, everybody. Now, at this point, Murtaugh's already got his family out from the previous home invasion. Now the bomb. Oh God, no, so stay out. While they're trying to track down something fishy, Riggs, meanwhile, is hooking up with our big bad Arjun's secretary, Rika, and it's one of those, we can't talk about my work. Well, that's really great because I don't want to talk about your work either. Let's go back to my place. As the entire team is getting wiped out, Murtaugh gets attacked in his home. He manages to kill the two guys, but Leo is unfortunately kidnapped. Riggs, meanwhile, has a literal helicopter flying into his trailer that he's now parked on the beach because California, if you can, you can. And gunfire gets away. So for some reason decides to drop Rika off at her house. I don't know why you would do that. Ever. Like that, I feel like after somebody shoots at you, you should just go straight to the police station. But unfortunately, while there, they both get taken. And now I gotta take a step back to talk about my favorite scene. It happens pretty early in the film. Riggs very much makes himself at home in the Murtaugh household. At this point, he's Uncle Riggs. Comes in, laundry, does it, cooks dinner, just, the sitcom style of a family member. They don't knock, they don't call, they just roll in. Come through the door, what's on TV? So, he's making chili, talking to Roger's wife, Trish, and she mentions finding a gold pen in the laundry. And Riggs takes it and he's like, yeah, that's mine. And gets a chuckle, and she, of course, asks, what's so funny? He's like, nothing, the pen reminds me of the night my wife died. And she, instantly apologizes, didn't mean to push, because she knows this was a very tender subject in the last movie. He's like, no, we never talked about it, it's fair. And he goes on to explain that he was supposed to meet his wife that night, but he was stuck at work, overworking himself, and then he went home, completely missed their dinner, to a ringing phone. He answers it, and it's police department telling him that they found his wife's body in a car accident. And he just starts breaking down, oh God, oh no, and just right to the floor. And when he hits the floor, he sees the gold pen under the couch, and that's when he hears, he explains it as like a drill sergeant in his head saying, get up. So he grabs a pen, he gets up, he says, all right, I'll be in, drives and signs his wife out with the gold pen. And as he ends the story with the gold pen, Roger comes through the door and says, oh, a gold pen. Trish found a gold pen in the laundry. And there's this look. It's really a beautiful look between Trish and Riggs. They both look at Murtaugh, and then they look at each other, and she instantly realizes these two are literally like brothers, but he doesn't know the gold pen story. Like, this is a story just for her. And it's just this really tender moment, and just the acknowledgement on her face is really spectacular. And that is very easily my favorite scene in the franchise. It hurts that it kind of crescendos early for me, but I also do enjoy the franchise as a whole, so it works out. Now, where this matters is our big bad Mr. Creepy is holding Riggs in a straitjacket at a pier ready to chuck him over. And then he explains, I almost met you once, a couple of years back. You were getting too close to our operation, so I was supposed to take you out. Ran you right off the road. until I got up to the car and found just this mat of long, blood-soaked hair. Found out it was your wife. It's, oh, this is the guy who did it. Now, by the law of 80s action movies, that means Riggs has to make this guy suffer. Spoiler alert, he does. And it's awesome. It's very good. And then just chucks Riggs right in there. And Rika's already at the bottom. She's gone. Now, thankfully for us, Riggs has already pointed out that he can dislocate his shoulder and get out of a straitjacket. A running gag through the rest of the franchise is that he dislocates his shoulder left, right, and center. Dislocates it, gets out, kills the two guys left on the pier because Mr. Creepy got away. He pops it back in and calls Roger. And Roger tells him they're all gone. Like, the entire team's been taken out. Bombs, shot in their living rooms, they're gone. Like, they got Leo. They tried to get me. What are we going to do? And Riggs tells him, I don't care. I'm done. I'm not a cop tonight. These guys we gotta stop them. I'm going to stop them. And it's this moment, very much like the first one, where now it's Murtaugh saying, okay. And he puts his badge down. Like, he knows what I'm about to do, I can't do as a cop. So he puts the badge down and he goes and meets Riggs at the house, which is important here because it's a stilt house. Which, if anybody doesn't know what a stilt house is, it's just a house that's pretty much built on a cliffside with stilts keeping it from sliding down. Which California mudslides are a thing. Like, that's so. And I'm not a fan of heights, so I'm not no stilts. Stilt houses, no. And this movie definitely sealed that as a no-go for me, because the plan is Murtaugh is going to go in and get Leo. Riggs is going to hook chains up to his truck and the stilts and pull the entire house down. They both succeed by, I almost want to say plot convenience, but plot convenience kind of works. And now it's, all right, now let's go finish this. So they go to the boat that Arjun is planning to ship hundreds of millions of dollars worth of drug money back to South Africa. And Riggs and Murtaugh get in there, and they end up in the shipping container full of the ridiculous amount of cash. And Roger just explains that a handful of this could put his kids through college. But it's drug money. It's just dirty, disgusting drug money. And even Riggs tells him, take it. Like, do something good with it. They're not gonna. And Murtaugh tells him, no, it's drug money. It's blood money. It ain't gonna wash off. And then they just blow all of it right out into the water. And a really pretty awesome climactic start to the climax of the film. Hence climactic. But they pretty much shoot their way through the boat, split up, trying to look for the big bad. And that's when Riggs meets Mr. Creepy. And they have, I think it's a considerably better fight than in the first one, because it's a little more, he doesn't have white shoes, I guess. At least, I'll never stop grinding on those white shoes he had to wear in the first one. That's, yeah. But this one works out because they beat the hell out of each other. Riggs gets a knife in the leg. Then he finally ends up stabbing the guy with his own knife and then dropping a container on him, because you got to do something awesome like that for such an evil bastard. Unfortunately, Mr. Diplomat Arjun sees this and shoots Riggs a couple of times. And Murtaugh gets there just a little late. And like, they drop it. You're caught. But diplomatic immunity. But Roger doesn't care at this point. Pops him. Kills him in one shot. And the infamous, it's just been revoked. Which, okay, one-liner. That's pretty good. Gets down to Riggs. And one thing I noticed like 10 years after I first saw this was that the Knocking on Heaven's Door, I think it was the Clapton version playing, as Murtaugh is trying to get to Riggs, because in the original ending for the film, Riggs was supposed to die here, but somebody decided, nah, let's let him live. He got his revenge. He's good now. He can live. I'm glad he did, because I don't think it would have worked as an ending if he had died. Thankfully, he doesn't. So they're sitting there kind of laughing. Riggs is bleeding all over the place. Cops are coming. You hear the sirens. You see the siren. You see the cars coming. And all right, he lives. He makes it. And I kind of think that this is one of the sequels that's better than the original in most ways. Now, I don't think Riggs is as interesting of a character this time around as he was in the first one. The first one, there was no cares. He was ready to go into the wood chipper, whereas this time he's happy, he's go lucky, he is Mr. Joe. He's the guy everybody knows. You see him at the grocery store, he waves. You say hi in passing. So I don't think he's as interesting here. The Murtaugh family doesn't get as, I almost want to say, as great of a showcase this time. There is one scene where Rianne has got a commercial and everybody's going to watch. Everybody's together, let's watch it. No, everybody at the police department has already been told about, hey, make sure to watch it. It's coming on at this time. And it's a condom commercial. And everybody is unhappy except for Riggs. He's like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And of course, they give Murtaugh shit the next morning at work because we all would. Leo is probably the best standout character here, so I am really glad he comes back in the next two, even if they don't use him very well in either of them, except for one scene in particular I can think of. Pesci somehow melds into the peanut butter and chocolate of Gibson and Glover, and become like bacon. I don't know if bacon goes good with chocolate and peanut butter, but I'm going to call it bacon because somehow it works here. They gel really well. If you told me, hey, the third one is literally just the three of them taking a drive to the Grand Canyon, I would be very interested in seeing it. The bad guys, I think they work for kind of the opposite reason the bad guys worked in the first one. The first one, they're a shadow organization. Where are they? Who are they? Whereas in this one, it's we know exactly who they are. We know where they are. We know what they're doing. But because of the red tape, we can't touch them. We can't do anything. We can poke at them, but we can't even do anything to them. So I kind of like that juxtaposition. We don't really see that too much. Now, you do see it in science fiction, fantasy, things like that, where you can't take them because you're a level 5, they're a level 20. It ain't going to work. So it kind of works out here pretty good. The climax, ridiculously better than the first, I think. For one thing, Murtaugh actually gets to do something, because in the climax of the last one, he didn't do anything. He threw a smoke grenade in the desert. He might have fired 1 or 2 shots there. He might have fired a few shots during their escape, and then he killed the general. That was it. That's all they did. Here, he kills a couple of henchmen who try to kill him, helps get Leo out. I think he kills another 1 or 2 guys there. He helps clear the boat. He kills the big bad at the end. So I definitely think that the climax works a lot better here. The fight, Riggs' one-on-one fight, mano-a-mano, I like a lot better here. The music was okay. I mean, nothing really absolutely stands out. But when you're already hitting homers, why try to do better? Richard Donner again came back to direct, and I think he just somehow slipped right back into that shoe because there's no fat. There's no real fat on this. Now, there are a few scenes in the director's cut that could go that I've seen in the director's cut. I don't think I mentioned any of them here, which I think I erroneously said that, or erroneously. I'm not good at pronunciations or spellings, so spoiler warning for those. The gold pen scene, I think I've said that was a director's cut only. I looked into it, and I'm pretty sure it's actually in the theatrical cut, which I am glad for, because that helps set up kind of remind us of, oh yeah, his wife's dead. So I'm really glad that's in there. I'm glad the franchise didn't end here, even if I'm not a big fan of 3. So, warning on that one. But overall, this holds up really well. It's a pretty damn good film. comedy works, action spectacular, lines are good, the general plot is easy to follow, understand all of the various turns it takes. Nothing really needs to get explained to you. A few of the other cop characters, we don't even know. I can't name any of them. I couldn't tell you a single one of their names except for one of them is played by the always wonderful Janet Goldstein. So if you don't know that name, you've definitely never seen Aliens. So not knowing any of them, we don't really care that they all end up dead. So we kind of lose a lot there. They were just kind of body fodder. Body fodder works and something like Lord of the Rings to show you the scale of a battle. It doesn't work here because we see their faces. We know they had potential to be characters, but they weren't. So that kind of drags the film down for me a little bit. But overall, it's definitely a solid watch. If you enjoyed the first one, you'll definitely enjoy this one. So I got to give it a 4 out of 5. So I will hopefully manage to stay a little more on task now that I have my new setup, my new ish location. It's really just my couch. But hopefully I can finish out the next 3 reviews I have for this month. And now that I have a legitimate working camera, maybe I'll do a live. I don't know. We'll see. Or at least an update for the next year. I've definitely got plans, but I can talk about those later. So, take it easy, everybody.